Hey everybody, happy Friday and welcome to the Fanatic Forum, your first Fanatic Forum of 2026. Happy New Year to you guys. Hope everybody's having a good start to their year so far. A little bit different show tonight here because I'm flying solo. Basically, Seth was having some technical difficulties. Apparently his router died. Basically, I get sometime today, he basically came home from work and had no internet at his house. So one is being DoorDash to him. So he may, by chance, get in late in the show here. We'll see. Fingers crossed. But I don't know. We'll see. Technology is a tricky thing here. But that's all right. They'll be doing just fine here by ourselves. But anyway, so of course, our topic du jour here, before we get into everything else here, is what is your favorite movie of 2025? I've got actually basically a top five, no particular order. And then I've got one an honorable mention as well that I'll talk about. But before we get into all that, of course, we got some comic reviews. But one thing I definitely want to show off here because this one means a lot here. So last weekend, Seth and I and the fellows got together for a late Christmas because we can get together the week of Christmas. So we got together the week after. Did our gift exchange, all that kind of good stuff here. So I got the guys' toys, which was cool. Everybody got action figures. Everybody was jazzed about that. And then everybody chipped in and got me this gem here, the newly updated poster published by Dark Horse Comics. Joe Bob Goes to the Drive-In, big anniversary updated edition here. So yeah, basically the classic book here of literally Joe Bob, talking about his whole history, kind of how he got in the business of movie reviewing and whatever else, and then his stances on different movies, just all kinds of just wonderful things here, all kind of Joe Bob. But the piece de resistance, of course, I popped when they opened up the package, and this was it. But Seth's like, no, open it. There's an inscription inside, which reads, George, the horsemen were going to get you a bottle of bourbon, but you got this lousy book instead. Joe Bob. That this means a lot. So yeah, just want to show this off. The fellas got this for it for Christmas. Yeah, that's amazing. So I've already started reading on it, and it's a lot of fun. So yeah, because I never got to read the old version, so it was kind of cool. I get the updated one. Then of course that inscription on there, just yeah, that was awesome. So. Alrighty. Well, I got some comic reviews for you guys first before we jump into our movie stuff here. And if we're going to play the game of how many Batman books do we have here, technically two, because I have three DC selections and two indie books here to talk about. And so, since we are going to talk Batman, let's talk Batman here. First off, I spoke about the first issue of this a month ago here. But this is Batman, Green Arrow, and the Question Arcadia issue number 2. This is done by Gabriel Hardman, who's basically doing both the art and the writing. This is a very noirish, hard edge, social justice kind of story here, because this is really kind of taking inspiration from the 80s runs of The Question, Green Arrow, and Batman, basically, where they both dealt with like real world issues, very noirish, very grown up kind of stuff there, but just good storytelling, good mysteries, whatever else, because basically blending, a detective, a reporter, and then basically a vigilante who already, Green Arrow here already is kind of a social justice warrior himself. So yeah, it's a great a great trio and a wonderful homage to a great period of DC's history. So yeah, if you like your noirish kind of, I wouldn't say real life, but real to life sort of superhero stuff, definitely that's the way to go there. And then of course this is the new big book in the country here, because the Absolute Universe is just dominating everything right now when it comes to comics, especially everything Absolute Batman. Of course, we had the recent annual, which you all may have heard of, which was Absolute Batman taking on some white supremacists. Then issue 15 just came out last month, which basically was our origin of the Joker. Now we have the Batman Arkham Special. And this is the origin of Arkham itself. So, of course, in traditional Batman lore, we're well aware of Arkham Asylum. It's basically the insane asylum where all the criminals who are completely deranged go, and they frequently break out of it. In the Absolute universe, so Arkham Asylum did exist at one point early in Gotham's history, but then we find out, of course, things change as they typically do. What we know of when we saw the first Arkham site, as it's called in the Absolute Batman universe, it is essentially an underground city beneath Gotham. Completely, high technology, lots of human experimentation, really weird super science kind of stuff going on in these sites. And of course, there are 24 of these sites around the world, and they all have a letter designation. Of course, so the one in Gotham is dubbed Arc M. Ha ha ha. But yes, so we get basically the origin of the Arkham site, and because they are called sites or locations or whatever else. But yeah, it's typically what people have been calling them is just our sites. But yes, we get the origin of this, and of course it is tied into a familiar villain that we've been talking about already. So, but yeah, very cool, very creepy story here. But this book already, just this A cover right here is going for $20 online. So it's just the Absolute Universe is just dominating everything. And for every new first appearance, for every new popular thing that's coming in, and for at least for Absolute Batman, the issue number 1 just keeps going up in value, which is highly unusual. When a series starts up, the number 1 is usually very hot for a while. It may stay hot. It may kind of level off at a certain price. What it doesn't normally do is keep going up every time something else comes out. So usually when you get, a first appearance of a villain or a certain character that's popular in the Batman universe, that number 1 shoots back up again. You do have some growth in the Absolute Wonder Woman series and the Absolute Superman series, but not near as much as the Absolute Batman stuff. So it's the clear winner of the popularity contest, though all 6 of the Absolute series that are currently out, those 3, then also you've got Flash, Green Lantern, and Martian Manhunter, all definitely worth looking at if you haven't got a chance to yet. And speaking of Absolute Superman, this is issue number 15, starting a kind of a new era for the book, as of course the first 14 issues, Superman basically had been battling Ra's al Ghul, kind of learning of his own, not necessarily origin, but trying to his place in the world, in this kind of new strange world that he's living in, because it's kind of what this Superman is very disconnected from humanity. He's trying to be a part of humanity, but doesn't have the connection near as much as the Superman of our world. So, basically he wants to do the good thing, wants to do the right thing, but just has no idea what that is. And so, basically clearly in need of some guidance, but unfortunately, his AI, which kind of helped power his suit and also helped him in situations, is dead. So he's essentially on his own, but we're kind of seeing the familiarity now. Like we saw, this was such a different Superman than anything we've ever seen before. But now we're starting to get a little more in familiar territory here, where he's going around constantly helping people, constantly seeming like he never stops working. But still trying to live a normal life. So, yeah, I like where things are going from here. But yeah, Absolute Superman was one of those slow burn kind of titles too. But once it really started getting going, it's just been really worth it. And I'm normally not a Superman reader, nor am I normally a Wonder Woman reader. But both those titles are really solid. All right, our 2 indie books to talk about here. Again, a little bit from Dark Horse, giving some love here. The final issue of Nemesis Forever, and this was the conclusion of the whole Nemesis epic, which started in the original series. Then you had Nemesis Returns. I can't remember what the 3rd series was. Then, of course, Forever is the 4th one. And if you want to throw in the Big Game event, which basically was a crossover event that Image had, where all the Millar universe characters crossed over, where the villains once again teamed up to destroy all the good guys, pretty much like they did. If you ever read the original Wanted, or if you've seen the film, they kind of talk about that as well, where basically in like one point in human history, all the supervillains get together and wipe out all the superheroes, and they're in charge of the world now. Well, then, of course, in this new generation, more superheroes rise up, and the villains try one more time to do that again. So, but yeah, but the end of Nemesis here, and it's just in fitting with the character of him being kind of like the anti-Batman. He's the world's most powerful, world's most richest man, and he's the world's greatest super criminal, and has a penchant for vengeance. And when you're on his list, it's nasty. So, but a great ending there. A very kind of stick it in and break it off sort of ending to Nemesis here. But yeah, again, very, very fitting here. Oh, good. Hey, Mr. Bradley, what is going on, sir? Good to see you. Good to see you, sir. Lastly here, we got to do the Twilight Zone #3. This has been such a fun comic that IDW has been putting out. Each issue is different, very much like the show. You get basically a new creative team each issue, a new topic, a new story, whatever else. You get a little intro from your kind of voice from beyond, being Rod Serling, even though they can't use his likeness, so you don't see him. But every now and then, like, you'll see maybe like the side of him or just his voice or everything, so sometimes he makes appearances, sometimes he doesn't. But in this instance here, we have two wars, or basically two armies battling each other here, what appears to be in somewhat of a medieval setting. But as we start to see some differences here, like if you notice that cape he's wearing is an American flag. Yeah. So maybe not a medieval setting, perhaps. Yeah, so really interesting story. Of course, James Stokoe is the creative team on that one. He writes and draws, which is cool because, of course, normally a lot of people are familiar with his art, but he doesn't get to write as often as some would like him to. So it's cool that he basically gets to do a solo story there. So, but yeah, again, the Twilight Zone series, the comic has just been so good. It's in black and white, just like the 50s TV show. So, I mean, the only thing missing is like the theme song playing when you open up the book. I mean, that's the only thing missing. So, yeah, if you're a Twilight Zone fan, I highly, highly, highly recommend picking that series up. So, all right, after all that, now it is time to get to our topic du jour here. What's your favorite movie of 2025? Now, of course, I've already had a couple of comments early on here before the show started here. Diamond Dave Mattingly had his list here. So his top 6 he has here. Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul. He says, technically it was very late 2024, but it's on his list anyway. There you go. Oh, the documentary Pee-wee as Himself. I need to see that. I've seen the John Candy documentary, I Like Me, which is really good. Of course, the Christopher Reeve documentary, which is really good. But yeah, I need to see the Pee-wee one. So I agree. Yeah, but I'm sure that I've heard so many good things about that. His #3 is Thunderbolts. #4, Superman. Yeah, very, very good film. Really like that one. #5, The Last Supper. I'm not familiar with that one. I'll have to check. I will see what that one is. And then #6, Heads of State, which I've actually heard is really funny. And that Heads of State was an Amazon film that had Idris Elba and John Cena in it. And like, I think they're both politicians, and something basically like they're under siege or something like that. So they both kind of have to essentially like team up and get themselves out of the, whether it's like a hostage situation or something along those lines. So it's like an action comedy, and I've heard good things about it. So we need to check that one out. But my list is completely different here. Actually, I don't have any overlap at all with Diamond Dave. And I kind of wish Seth would have texted me what his list was going to be, but I'm curious what his stuff will. So we'll have to ask him next week. But my list here, first off, basically mine are in no particular order, but I'm trying to go in chronological order of release here. But my first pick here, I've only got one Marvel movie this year for 2025, but I had to pick Captain America: Brave New World, which is directed by Julius Ona, of course, starring Anthony Mackie, Harrison Ford, and Giancarlo Esposito. This was a really well done kind of like spy film, Very, intrigue, mystery stuff going on, a lot of tension, a lot of suspense building. Unfortunately, the trailers spoil everything because it comes basically the two biggest things are who's the person that's causing all this turmoil, all this chaos, basically hiring all these assassins, things like that. So you've got basically that kind of question. And the second question is something's wrong with formerly General, now President Ross. It's like something's up with him. What's up? Basically his behavior's been, erratic lately, this. And then basically we see in the third act of the film, what is wrong is that, we see the Red Hulk. But though basically, essentially, both of those mysteries are spoiled by the trailer. So if you don't see the trailer to the movie, it's a good flick, and you basically you may see some stuff coming, you see some telegraphed, but yeah, it is, it's one of the better Marvel movies that I think went under the radar because people either just didn't want to give Anthony Mackie's, Sam Wilson Captain America a chance, or they already had enough fatigue. I don't know what it was, but yeah, Captain America: Brave New World, I would definitely put on my list for best of 2025. Having said that, I thought Thunderbolts was a good movie. Unfortunately, it's got a problem of too much exposition in the first 2/3 of the film. And I think they did that because it's a group of fairly obscure characters. The only one you would really know if you're the casual Marvel cinematic fan. If you just kind of watch some of the big movies, you don't catch up on everything, you don't watch all the series, then basically from Thunderbolts, Bucky. That's it. Everybody else is new, especially like if you haven't seen Black Widow, then basically 3 of the characters in Thunderbolts are going to be completely lost to you. If you didn't see the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, then you don't know who you don't know who U.S. Agent is. So yeah, there was a lot. Of course, if it's been a while since you've seen Ant-Man 2, then you probably forgot who Ghost was. So you had to get a lot of catching up and a lot of exposition to kind of get to the point where we get in the third act of the film where they decide to be a team, and now they have a villain here, which is basically one of their own. But instead of basically trying to kill him, they're just basically trying to talk him down and still keep them as one of them. So kind of just a unique film in that regard of a superhero film. But yeah, it's problem of if you were an experienced MCU viewer, good part of the film's come a waste. But if you're not, then you can appreciate it all. So it just kind of depends which side you go on here. My next pick for 2025 movies here, this one should be obvious and also has a Marvel connection as well here. Ryan Coogler's Sinners, starring Michael B. Jordan and a whole bunch of other people here. But Michael B. Jordan gets to play 2 people in the movie here. This was such a fantastic experience in the cinema watching this. For multiple reasons. It starts off partially as this wonderful cultural film, kind of stuck in we're still in the Jim Crow era of the South here, so dealing with a lot of racial issues here. So basically, you've just got some folks who are trying to get a spot for them, where the police aren't going to mess with them. The Klan, basically other people, troublemakers, won't mess with them. The folks can just sit there and party, have a good old time, play their music, whatever they want to do. Basically this, basically kind of, we would call it like a club or, shack, whatever the place was, right? And then you get the vampire stuff. And so you got a little bit of kind of a horror movie thing going on. And then it essentially turns into a siege flick. So you kind of give almost like a taste of 3 things in one. So like I said, especially like the big dance hall scene right before things start going south, where you get all the blending of the different genres of music and the different time periods of music and this big dance scene here, where everybody's partying and having a good time. That was just a really beautiful, well done scene. And then, like I said, yeah, things go south real quick, and this kind of turns into Prohibition era from dusk till dawn, sort of thing like that. But the interesting Marvel connection, as you guys may or may not know, is that, of course, at one time when the ever troubled Blade. I don't know if you want to call it a remake, the next movie, basically the one that's going to have Mahershala Ali playing Blade in it. He basically they were doing one movie as a period piece where it was going to take place in like I think like the 1920s and maybe even a little bit earlier, and then also take place in the modern day as well. So basically kind of showing that basically Eric's been around for a little bit because he's, the half-breed vampire sort of thing like that. So, you were going to get basically a bit of a period piece kind of, film. It may even have taken place in London. I think I'd heard rumors that was also going to be the case as well. But then, of course, the movie fell apart, didn't end up happening. And so when Ryan Coogler was doing basically in production for Sinners, he talked to Marvel and knew what was going on. It's like, hey, can I buy those costumes off you guys? So all the costumes in the film were essentially provided by the unmade Blade movie. So, and of course, Coogler directed both the Black Panther films, so he's got a great connection with Marvel, and so yeah, it all just worked out. But it was really funny that it was like, yeah, we almost got a really cool Blade period piece movie, and instead we got all the costumes to make Sinners. So like, it worked out in the end. This one's a little bit interesting because it wasn't a theatrically released film. This was released on Apple, the Apple streaming service here. But this is too good, too fun of a movie to pass up. I'm talking about Scott Derrickson's The Gorge. And of course, Scott Derrickson from the first Doctor Strange film and the Black Phone movies. This is basically an action horror film starring Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy with Sigourney Weaver in it as well. She's kind of not in it as much, but she plays kind of the big bad in the movie here. But basically what you have is this mysterious gorge where within the gorge are monsters. They are dubbed the Hollow Men, kind of a reference to the T.S. Eliot poem, which is referenced in the film. But yeah, there's no real story. No, we don't know where these things came from, why they're here, what they want, all that sort of thing like that. It's just this defense is set up here. So you have two watchtowers on either side of the gorge. And of course, the gorge itself is rigged up with, explosives, automated machine guns, different walls and barbed wire and all that kind of stuff like that. And then basically you have a single sniper station on either side. So one's an American, and then Anya Taylor-Joy plays a undisclosed Eastern European, possibly Ukrainian, but not entirely sure. Because basically when they go to the gorge, they're not entirely sure where they are. Though they are, charged with doing this job by their respective countries' military, they don't know much of anything about unless what they're basically the person they were replacing told them about what they know about the history of the gorge. So, they do a little bit of digging. They find some stuff here. So we do find out a little bit of information about the origin of all this here. But yeah, like the creature design is good. The performances are good by both of our stars here. Of course, I'm a big fan of Anya Taylor-Joy. I've liked a lot of her films, like a lot of her stuff. Miles Teller's a good kid too. I don't have any problem with him. He's got some good performances behind him as well. So yeah, it's a fun movie all around, a good action horror flick. It's, nothing too complex or anything like that. Just a lot of fun. If you like a good genre film, look no further. And of course, I've just grown to really like Scott Derrickson's stuff. He's just a guy who gets the assignment for whatever movie he's on here. So, if you see his movie name attached to something, it's probably going to be a good flick. So, yeah, I was excited when I saw him as director on here. My one comedy I have on here, and this was one I was initially looking forward to, but also extremely trepidatious about because of it being a remake. I'm talking about the 2025 Akiva Schaffer remake of The Naked Gun. And of course, it's kind of a remake, kind of a generational sequel, if you will. But this movie is a friggin' scream. I was so impressed with how funny this was. Because, to me, the Naked Gun films, Leslie Nielsen is precious to me. So you you have to recognize how great those movies were. But well, they kind of taper off, as they go along. But the original, definitely. The Police Squad series, definitely. But this is such a good successor. You get great jokes here with basically Leslie Nielsen, or not Leslie, Liam Neeson, essentially playing this movie straighter than even Nielsen did in his movies. Basically, it's just very much kind of the uber tough guy who just doesn't get it, doesn't get the joke for anything. Pam Anderson playing the femme fatale, but also kind of the helper sort of thing like that. And it just the chemistry of these two, I could definitely see how these two fell in love on the set, and hopefully, as far as I know, they're still together. But yeah, just I could definitely see how they fell in love. They had very good, very natural chemistry together. Their timing was good when it came to the jokes. Lots of great sight gags, lots of classic stuff. If you're an old, Naked Gun fan, so everything you would want in a Naked Gun movie is here. Even if the credits. If you guys didn't stick around for the credits, there's jokes from the. I'm not talking like an extra scene or something like that in there. I'm talking about within the credits themselves. There are joke credits, just like we would have in the Naked Gun movies and the airplane movies. All the Zucker brothers, Abrams stuff like that back in the 70s and 80s. So the new Naked Gun follows suit right along with all that stuff. So I really hope we're going to get more of these because, like I said, I was really impressed with how good it was. Just not expecting that at all. So because again, I was very worried about it, but it's like, okay, it's like I can get the idea with Liam Neeson's like he doesn't normally do comedies. And by the time that Leslie Nielsen did Naked Gun, he had been doing several comedies already. So he was fairly, comfortable with that. And then basically, this kind of being his first like leading man comedic role, so he was ready for the assignment. And Liam Neeson apparently was too. So, and of course, with Seth MacFarlane was producer on it. Akiva Schaffer was 1/3 of the Lonely Island guys with Andy Samberg. You already know he's a funny guy. So it just the stars aligned for this one, and it was excellent. So, really hope to see another one from them. So. And then my last official film on my list here, and I had to actually go for one of the big ones here. This one surprised me with how much I enjoyed it because I will say that I started off as a great admirer of Paul Thomas Anderson's movies. His first three, like Hard Eight, Boogie Nights, Magnolia, triple threat for me. All three great movies. And then we get to Punch Drunk Love. And he kind of lost me on that one. There Will Be Blood. A lot of people really liked it. It won a lot of Oscars. Daniel Day-Lewis, sure. But it's like, just one of my thing. So he's been real kind of hit and miss with it. Like, I've enjoyed Inherent Vice. Basically, that was his 60s crime noir thriller based on the Thomas Pynchon book that had Joaquin Phoenix in the title role. So not a lot of people liked Inherent Vice, but I did. So that kind of got me back with him on that one. But so it was really kind of just trepidatious with him. Like, we'll see how this one goes here. But another Thomas Pynchon book here. This film's based off Vineland, but we're talking about One Battle After Another. And again, lots of people in this one here. Leonardo DiCaprio, Sean Penn, Benicio del Toro, Regina Hall, Tiana Taylor, and of course, introducing Chase Infinity, who is this young lady right here in the foreground. And she was an excellent actress too. The premise of this movie is you basically have kind of an alternate world where the immigration issue is much, much more of a larger thing. It's essentially there is a war going on in the United States and Mexico over immigration, where you have multiple groups of revolutionaries made up of all different kinds of people fighting against the federal government over, basically trying to free people who are locked up in like prison camps that are out in normal, basically in normal society, or basically people who are helping people try to cross the border either way, whichever way they're trying to go, or basically, people just being locked up because of the color of their skin, all sorts of stuff like that. Basically the problems that we've seen in our world today, just magnified by 10. And of course, brought in a lot of violence as well. So the start of the movie, Tiana Taylor, Regina Hall, Leonardo DiCaprio are part of a vigilante group called the French 45. And basically, they're kind of one of the top, basically one of the top terrorist groups in the country, pulling off big jobs wherever else. Sean Penn plays a military officer by the name of Lockjaw, who is basically just this complete badass, unstoppable, super patriotic white bread dude here. But he gets a little sweet on Tiana Taylor, who is the leader of the French 45 and also the significant other of Leonardo DiCaprio's character. So a bit of a love triangle thing kind of going on here. Then we flash forward into the future, where we know that Tiana Taylor's character was pregnant, had a child, and basically that's introduction to Chase Infinity's character. So we get kind of a flash forward, basically into the present day, where the war is still going on, but the warriors are getting a little older. And there isn't really another generation that's kind of risen up. So, that's kind of one of the problems there. So we're starting to kind of get some, maybe some younger people trying to get back in the fight or whatever else. Lockjaw comes back into the fold when he was basically kind of previously thought retired. And then worst of all, basically DiCaprio's daughter goes missing, and so now he's got to find her. But unfortunately, he is no longer the revolutionary warrior he once was. He's basically now kind of a burnout pothead, and even maybe even a bit of a drunk too. So, life has not been good for him. And of course, mom is not in the picture. She is thought to be dead, but possibly hiding out in Mexico. So there's lots of lots of playing around with that as well. But this is, while it is kind of a dramatic action film, it's also kind of an anti-action film because there's a lot of comedy and a lot of kind of idiosyncrasies to this movie, because you'll get fight scenes or action scenes or gunfights or stuff like that, but it's by people who aren't very good at what they're doing. So that's kind of where some of the comedy comes in too. Also, there's a bit of a chase scene at the end of the movie, which is probably one of the dullest chase scenes you're ever going to see, but that's not a bad thing. It fits this movie. It wouldn't fit any other movie, but it fits this one. But you'll know it when you see it. But it's kind of it's dull, and it's also a bit frustrating because, essentially there's a lot of mistakes being made. Because, again, we're dealing with some very flawed, very human people throughout this flick. No one's really got their shit together. Not even Sean Penn's character, who appears to have his shit together, but he's quite just the same as everybody else. So, a very interesting film for Paul Thomas Anderson. Like I said, one of his I haven't liked this much in a long time, but I was engaged with it. He doesn't make short movies, so it's like almost a 2.5 hour flick, but I was with it. I was engaged with it. I found it entertaining. So but it's definitely worth checking out. But interesting side note, read an article today where a film reviewer and author was essentially talking about this movie may slightly be a sort of side remake homage to Terminator 2. And if you watch the movie and you watch the kind of the parallels, comparing it to Terminator 2, it kind of stacks up. And even to the point where Chase Infinity, you can't see it in this picture, but throughout a large portion of the film, she's wearing a black motorcycle jacket similar to the one that Arnold wore in Terminator 2. But basically, you get like a revolutionary trying to protect their child. And then as they get older, they're a little softer, a little more burnt out, not as quite as sharp as they once were, sort of thing like that. Then you get kind of, Benicio del Toro's character basically plays a karate teacher that essentially kind of does have his stuff together. He's kind of one of the few people in the movie who do. So he kind of almost acts as the Arnold character. Sean Penn is definitely the T-1000. So you get but there's a lot of parallels to this movie and Terminator 2. And so once I read this and kind of basically I listened to the case the author made, I'm like, yeah, kind of that fits. That fits. Hey, good to see you, user. Oh, it is UV. Oh, what's that? At first, I didn't see it. It just says user on there, but I see the V on there. So good to see you, V. Good to have you back, brother. So yes, one battle after another is on this list here. So yeah. So and my other previous one, since you're coming in, because you're coming in late, I'll recap for you. Captain America: Brave New World, and you were right about this one. Sinners, The Gorge, The Naked Gun, and of course, as we just spoke, One Battle After Another. So that's my official 5 that I picked there for this year for 2025. Hey, what is up, Ron? Good to see you, sir. And then last but not least, so this one's kind of an unofficial pick here, but I wanted to give this one an honorable mention because it's a movie that got a lot of discussion last year. I finally got around to seeing it, and it's definitely worth your time and interesting for several reasons here. And I'm talking about Good Boy, the horror film that essentially stars a dog. A very lovable, very cute dog. The film is directed by Ben Leonberg, who basically that is his dog. So it kind of explains how the dog gets such good performances here. But the story on this one is that basically the dog's owner already seems to have some sort of health issue, possibly maybe like a cancer or something along those lines. His basically moving into kind of an old family home that's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, got a bit of maybe a bad reputation because their grandfather who lived there previously died in the home under some mysterious circumstances, but nonetheless, Junior's going to go and live there. Well, weird stuff starts happening. The dog starts noticing it first. The dog's name's Indy, by the way, as in kind of like for Indiana Jones. So the dog starts noticing weird stuff and is essentially kind of going on a bit of a hero's journey because, like I said, the interesting things that are done in the film, you don't see any of the humans' faces. You always focus on the dog and the dog's face and their basically its reaction to things. How it's taking it, whatever else. The horror aspect of the film is really lightweight. So the suspense really kind of comes down to, does the dog survive? Does anything bad happen to the dog? Whatever else. So that's basically, if you're an animal lover, that's what you're thinking the whole movie, right? But the horror aspect, we're talking like Disney Channel light, like, Mr. Boogedy kind of, it's not a scary movie by any means whatsoever if you're an experienced horror watcher. It is a nice, creepy movie. It's still well done, well made, but it's not a scary movie by any means. Like I said, you're focusing 100% on the dog. And I will spoil this for you. If it's keeping you away, the dog survives. The dog does not die. What does end up happening is you get a bit of a hero's journey in this kind of very Sarah Connor or Ripley from Aliens, where you get kind of like a weak character who goes on basically an ordeal, and at the end of it, they come out a stronger person for it. So yeah, it's well done in those regards there. But like I said, very lightweight on the horror, but technically a well done movie. And I said, with what they're doing, what they're focusing on, I like how they did it. Now, will we see maybe other movies of this genre kind of, keep going? Because like I said, this got some awards, got some attention. So maybe we will. Maybe we'll get something a little more, a little more engaging, a little more intense, perhaps. We'll see. But like I said, there's definitely going to be a soft balance between you want to have this be a good horror film, and you also don't want to like drive away your animal lovers who would come to this movie in the first place. So there you go. Yeah, and V, you're right. Yes, it is a doggo horror story. Yes. So. Yeah, but those were my picks for 2025 there. I had a lot of stuff to go through. And a lot of good movies to go through. I did get to watch the most recent Knives Out movie, Wake Up Dead Man. Highly recommend you check it out, that one. I almost like that one probably the best of the three Knives Out films that exist. I just, I enjoyed the mystery of it all. Of course, there's, it has a heavy religious aspect because essentially it's a priest that is killed basically at his church. And so the backup, basically like the junior priest and the parishioners and stuff like that, there's a lot of people who are involved in the suspects. But yeah, I enjoy it. I've always enjoyed the Knives Out movies, but yeah, Wake Up Dead Man may be my favorite of the three there. So there's still some movies in 2025 I haven't got around to seeing. Hell, there's movies in 2024 and beyond I haven't got around to seeing yet. So I'm proudly saying that I missed the Barbenheimer craze of 2024. So I have not seen Oppenheimer or Barbie, either one. So I missed out on that one, but oh well. But I did go to see Jaws the 50th anniversary this summer, so I got that going for me. And that was awesome. They did a really good job on remastering the sound, especially when they're out on the ocean. Like you're hearing the boat creak, you're hearing the waves, just all kinds of other extra sound that you didn't hear before because of all the remastering and stuff they did to it. So yeah, really, really impressed with that. So I'm hoping eventually they'll put that out on Blu-ray, or 4 or 4K, whatever else. So yeah, that'd be a nice thing to have. So. Anywho, well, I said it's going to be basically a little bit shorter show here because I was Sethless tonight. Like I said, he was his router died on him unexpectedly, and so yeah, he was not going to be able to do the show here. So that's okay. So this one's going to be just a little bit shorter one here. But anyway, I'm glad for those of you guys who did come in and tune in with us tonight here. I appreciate you one and all. I think we're going to start a new schedule starting basically tonight, where we're going to do every other week. So we won't be back next week. So we'll be back in 2 weeks here, but same bat time, same bat channel. But yeah, it's like our work schedules are changing a little bit here. So yeah, we're not as always free on Fridays, or sometimes have the energy to do a podcast. So yeah, so like I said, we're going to change things, but the show is certainly alive and well, not going anywhere. But yeah, we're just going to change up our schedule a little bit here. So anywho, so hope you guys have a good start to your new year. Go out and watch some movies yourself, or stay home and watch some movies, all that kind of good stuff here. And of course, leave in the comments here what was some of your favorites of 2025. Like I said, Diamond Dave shared his, but I definitely want to see what you guys thought about some of your favorites for last year. So anywho, you guys have yourselves a great weekend and week of take two, a week next week here, and we will see you next time on the Fanatic Forum. And now we leave you with a message from our friends from Comic Books for Kids. Take care, guys.
My name is Mark Weiss, and I am the founder and president of an organization called Comic Books for Kids. 6 years ago this month, we embarked on a journey of passion and heart. Our goal was to make a difference for children in hospitals and cancer centers. Little could we have ever imagined the response we have now. Starting with just hopes and dreams, we had no money for our mission. We had no product to give to the hospitals, and we had only called a couple hospitals and asked them, if we were to provide you with comic books, would you be interested? And they said yes. So we embarked on a 1-year journey to make a difference for these kids. We realized that even though we can't take away the reason these children are in hospitals, we can perhaps, while they are there, let them fly like a superhero, be princes and princesses, and embark on a mystical and magical journey to take them away from where they are in that hospital bed. Today, and thanks to your support, we are thrilled to say that we are now the largest charity in the U.S., supporting well over 200 hospitals in all 50 states for not only comic books, but for other pop culture items like Funko Pops, action figures, coloring books, Spanish bilingual items, backpacks, and more. When we received materials that were inappropriate for the young ones, we started a sister charity called Comic Book for Troops. And overnight, we became the largest charity in the U.S. for these same items to all branches of the military. We want to thank our friends for providing us their support and for allowing us the means to make so many happy with their gracious give to us.